What's going on, everybody? Shane Patrick Cruz, host of Dream Nation Podcast. Welcome to the second edition of the podcast. Today, I'm super stoked. Actually, today, man. Anybody else that's on my podcast, don't get offended by that. I'm just really stoked about today. So, I'm here with RadioB, one of Richmond's own hip hop artists. But I'm gonna let him tell you more about who he is, everything he has going on, and then how you can get a hold of him. And look up his stuff, which you need to do. So tell everybody who you are and then everything that you got going on.
What's going on? My name is RadioB. I'm a hip hop artist, Richmond, Virginia. Been making music here for well over a decade, almost two. I've got a ton of projects out. My most recent album is called Jesus Never Wore a Suit. I released
It's a good album.
In February 2018. Also am the curator and creator of RVA Lyricist Lounge, which is also dubbed RVA Rap Elite, as well as Southpaw Battle Coalition with my partner Bravo and Nicholas F. I'm a member of the artist collective AGM, that's my family, the Association of Great Minds, which includes Nicholas F., Michael Millions, Name Brand, and others. So that's basically me. I also started a clothing line called Richmond's Own, which really just represents Richmond pride and ownership, and that's pretty much my goal. With everything that I'm involved with in the city is just kind of uplifting the culture in the city. So
yeah.
So I'm just a creator and I guess obviously an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah. So, the album is everywhere you can get an album, right? So iTunes, Spotify, everywhere, right? You need to get the album. It's good. I think I've listened to it probably 4 times in the last 4 days.
Awesome.
It was really good. And then you just did the Lyricist Lounge out at the new Institute for Contemporary Art out of VCU, which went well. We really had a good turnout for that. Yeah. And then so. What events? Because I know you're out at the National or the Broadberry or
we did Flag on the Moon.
That's it.
Which is AGM's year-end concert that we do every year, and that was at the Broadberry this past December, which was always is, but it was definitely an experience. What Lyricist Lounge or RVA Rap Elite, that's a monthly event. We also have a YouTube channel.
What's the YouTube channel?
Right now, the YouTube channel is youtube.com/RVA Lyricist Lounge.
Okay.
But it will also be changing to youtube.com/RVA Rap Elite.
And I'll link all that too, wherever, like Facebook, YouTube, all that. I'll link all that too. All right, so let's get into it, right? So it always starts off with the question, what was your dream as a kid, like 5 to 10 years oldish?
Honestly, it was to have a career in the professional wrestling industry.
Seriously?
Yeah. At that age, I wanted to work for the WWF at that point.
How old are you?
I'm 37.
Oh, I'm 37. Same age. We grew up watching the same people. I watched it every single week.
Yeah, like
who was your the big people you followed?
At that time, I was I still lived in New York, so we were more influenced by the WWF than the
WCW
and the WCW.
Yeah.
So I was a huge Hulk Hogan fan at that time. As years went on, because my love for wrestling went far into to my adulthood. But
why did you like wrestling so much? What was it about?
It was like the first thing that I ever chose to gravitate to. I started watching wrestling. I used to tell it all the time. I can remember still to this day when I found it on TV myself. I was 2 years old. And I stumbled across it. In my mind, the only thing I can see it probably was like Rock and Roll Express versus Midnight Express.
Yes.
It was a tag match, or either that or the Freebirds. I can't remember, but I remember those. I remember that what it looked like. I can't remember the details, but I remember this one still shot in my mind of when I first watched wrestling, and I was like addicted from from that point, as a 2-year-old on, that's all I really cared to watch on TV.
Yeah, I seriously, back then it was like, I think it came on like twice a week, and then it came on I can't remember if it was WWF or WCW, because that was Saturday mornings too.
I don't see that. The funny thing about that is that was definitely not WWF. So I don't know what program that was that I first caught. But yeah, that was it for me. Like,
and how long did that stay with you that you wanted to be a?
Like,
did you go as far as to be like
probably all the way up to like when I graduated high school? Honestly, I started rapping though in my junior year of high school, and my focus immediately, my love and my focus immediately shifted to that.
Did you already know what character you were gonna be? Did you already have like a character in mind?
In wrestling?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I said a career. I was very deliberate in saying that because it didn't mean that I planned to be a wrestler.
Okay.
And it's not because I didn't want to. I just never. I was small. Like I've always been real like skinny. You know what I'm saying? And prior to like the 10th grade, I was short. Then I sprouted up to be about, I'm like 6'1" now. But I never was a big guy. Yeah. So it didn't ever really seem like feasible for me to be a wrestler. So I started to say like, well, I could be, I was going to go to school for journalism so I could be like an announcer, you know what I mean? Like to be at the desk, what I'm saying? Be JR or something.
So the talk, so that's interesting to me, right? Because, the spoken word of announcing, and now, you bring that around to doing music. I mean, it's interesting to me to see for people to see that what's, like, how do they, sometimes it's like traces of what they wanted to do when they grew up.
What's so funny? I think for me, the translation for what connected with that is more in my showmanship and performing,
right?
And also even down to like the battle leagues and like being a league owner and kind of setting matchups up and watching things like that play out.
Yeah,
I think that's tied into me as a kid and that love for like one-to-one combat and also just being and the characters and all of that, the theatrics of it all.
It makes sense.
When I was a kid though, like I wrestled everything. Like that was just it. Like I was a fanatic wrestling fan. But it's funny because as I've gotten older, I'm not, as it changed and got out of the Attitude Era and NWO and all of that. That was like the glory days. That was like towards my end of my high school years.
Right.
As it changed, I haven't been as much of a fan of it as I was growing up. I still gravitate to like go and catch up on it. And I have the subscription to like the network and everything. Yeah. But I just don't regularly watch it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So how did the music thing come about then? You said you started when you were a junior, right?
Yeah.
So how did you transition into that?
That was like, I've always been curious. I had actually started writing rap. Well, actually, I wrote my first rap when I was in the 8th grade.
You still have it? Do you still know?
No. I know I said something about the Mad Hatter in it. I know that. But I was telling this story recently. It's like, it all plays into like not allowing other people's voices and other people's opinions to like shape what it is that you feel like you can do.
What do you mean by that?
I say that because like in the 8th grade, my very first rap I wrote, somebody got a hold of it. And like, I think it was in gym class or whatever, but it got like around and like, I just got like roasted for that rap all day in school that day. Like it got passed around and I was just getting roasted for it. And I never wrote another rap until the 11th grade.
And that was in 8th grade?
That was in the 8th grade. So 3 years worth of potential growth went to waste because the original seeded idea got stomped out, and then I just kind of like was like, okay, well, you know, but it wasn't meant for anybody to ever read,
right?
You know what I mean? So
yeah. So then, how did you go from that to being like, nah, fuck it, I'm just gonna start writing again?
And I don't know. It's like I started going to these ciphers. I mean, not going to ciphers, but I started seeing ciphers and coming across ciphers in like football games in the hallways. Like we had a wall, like one long wall that was like the place to be.
Yeah.
And some of my friends, Michael Millions, one of them. He rapped. He was younger than me. He's younger than me by a year or two, and but he rapped already. You know what I mean? He was in ciphers.
Yeah.
And I remember like, and it was just a handful of friends that rapped, and it was it kind of just struck a chord in me. And I remember sitting at home one night. I was watching like a bunch of old videos. I was just like kind of immersing myself in the culture, and then I was sitting at my computer desk, and I just decided to start typing out verses, and I typed out maybe like 2-3 verses at this one time, and I brought it in, was chopping it up in a study hall with my homie Kaneda. He rapped, and I kicked him like the first 2-3 verses, and like the first verse he was like, I don't know. The second verse it was like, yo, that's dope, like, and I think the third ended up being like the third rap. He ended up having me come to my man Ella Styles. He was the only person that had like a studio or anything. He had a home studio way back then.
Yeah.
And I recorded that verse on a record, and he put that on his tape, and he was selling that tape in school, and it just, that was that. So, yeah.
So tell me, walk me through like how it became like an open. You said you were doing the battles, right? Mm-hmm. And then you said you led one, right? You're starting to put them together.
Well, now I run.
Now you do.
Now.
So tell me.
So and that's funny because like I think that was another thing that kind of inspired me early on. I liked the competitive nature of rap, which also kind of stems back to the wrestling thing.
Yeah.
And so when I started recognizing like battle rap, that was like, oh wow, this is dope. Cause like, I've always been big on vocabulary. Like, I was a big like spelling bee kid. I always was into words, always read a lot. So it was like, oh, I can use my words, and it's kind of like, it's like a matchup. It's like wrestling, but it's words. You know what I'm saying? So I remember Mike, I had him. This one kid, he rapped. He was riding my bus, and I know he wants me to tell the story, so I'm gonna tell it. This kid, Alan, and we were supposed to battle on the bus.
Yeah.
So Mike had never heard me rap, and I was like, yo, I rap now. And he's like, word? And I'm like, yeah, yo, you gotta ride my bus home and battle this kid. And I ended up battling him. I won. And from there, it's like he and I and another friend of mine, Demise, we ended up being in a group together. And that's kind of how I officially was a rapper.
A rapper, yeah. Oh, how much did family and teachers play a role in the influence? Was your family always supportive of the wrestling and then the rapping, or are they?
My mom was. My dad didn't really get rap early on. Like he's super supportive now, but early on, it wasn't like he deterred me from doing it. It just wasn't like rap and hip hop culture just wasn't something he really understood. So he would kind of cut it down a little bit from time to time. So I would get frustrated with that. But my mom, she's a hip hop head, and she's. But mainly because of me, she's a hip hop head. But she's always been super supportive. She's never censored me. Like most of my friends didn't curse in their raps. Like it just didn't matter with my mom. She's just like, it's expression. Express yourself and do what you do.
What about your teachers?
I had this one teacher, my 12th grade English teacher, Mr. Goss. He was like super supportive. Like he actually used to like let me, if I would rap in front of the class, he would let me write a rap to replace any project I had all year. So if everyone else had to do like poster boards, I didn't have to do one. Like if we had to do like some project that was an essay or some poster board or some type of project, I didn't have to do that. I could write a rap about whatever the topic was, and as long as I performed it for the class, then.
So what was the first time like performing for the class? You remember that?
I don't.
No?
I don't remember anything about what I said in any of those things for some reason. I don't know why. But
Do you remember the first time like you performed in front of a bunch of people?
Assembly. We did an assembly.
An assembly?
Yeah.
How did that go?
It was good. I think it was. I know that it had to do. I think it was like some type of like Black History type concept that we approached. And I mean the reaction from the students and the teachers was awesome. So
that's
like,
good.
Yeah. So
it's not a lot that you know. It's either like we were talking earlier before the camera turned on. You know, it's either like parents or family that are like, "That's stupid. Why would you even think about doing that?" Like, or you'll never make money doing that, right? Or teachers have been like, "Nah, you need to go to college and be an accountant or whatever it is, right?" You know, it's good that you had people around you that were being like, "Yeah, like I mean, the kids." At first, in 8th grade is one thing, but to come back later, and then be accepting of it, right?
It was definitely. It's like it's like literally like finding yourself in that space, because it's like you go from like I was never really outside of like the wrestling industry thing, which always seemed far fetched. I never had another thing that. I was never like, oh, I want to be an astronaut or I want to be a doctor. I didn't never have any of those types of aspirations that you go to school for. You know what I mean? So that was it. It was like, oh, I'm going to still go to school for journalism, but that was like more so my focus was the music.
And did you go to school for journalism?
I started, but I didn't even finish the first year.
Why?
Ended up being like getting in a car accident and like wrecking my mom's car, and we were in a really bad space. Like my mom, we ended up having our house foreclosed on, and just kind of having to jump into like life a little bit more.
You ever start working?
Yeah, so I just started working. Yeah, I started. I got into collection, like couple odd jobs like shoe places and stuff like that, and then got into like bill collection, which ended up leading me into customer service, and I ended up having like a career in customer service for like 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you make the transition from New York down to Richmond?
As a kid, my parents moved me down here when I was about 11.
Oh, so you've been down here a while.
Yeah, I've been down here majority of my life.
So that whole time in 8th grade and like all that was down here.
Yeah, I was in. Yeah.
Oh wow. Because you think like everybody thinks like New York is a big hip hop scene in New York, right? When you think of Richmond, most people are like, is it a hip hop scene in Richmond?
Definitely though.
So
it's always been though. In Richmond, like now it's like you have a mixture of different types of artists and everybody makes different music, but at that time, like everybody was like core MCs and like like it's like real like lyrical rap, East Coast rap, but that's also because that was what the mainstream was at that time. As the mainstream changes, it kind of changes or dictates what you hear from Richmond.
Right.
It's not so much like that anymore because of the internet. And people just kind of take their influences from where they take them from. So you have just like and I think this is probably the case for many cities now. You have people whose their music is influenced on all types of different sounds, and they just kind of
because they're able to listen to
listen to everything. It's not like what you're indigenous to anymore, like it used to be. So, or what the mainstream was playing, or what the radio was playing,
right?
Or what, so it's just different now.
So so from wrestling to starting to rap, you moved down here, you did the whole battle rap thing, putting them together, like and you got everything you got going on now. So what is the dream now? What is the culmination of all of that, right?
It's really because I've kind of branched out into different creative paths. I mean, music is still first and foremost. That's getting the music out as far as possible, generating a loyal base of people that appreciate the music and generating the respect of my peers, and you know, when I say peers, like, you know, the people that do what I do at the highest level.
Right.
Those are who I consider to be my peers.
Yeah.
I don't really consider, like, it's not like a local thing or anything like that. Like, I look at the people that are the best at making hip hop music. Those are my peers, and you know, people in my collective. So, you know, as long as we're continuing to garner respect and expanding the base, that's one thing. With the music, I just, you know, I look to give people, you know, substance and something to help them get from having an idea to living a dream.
Yeah.
You know, so I have a campaign that's coming called Kill the Dreamer. It's an extension from a mixtape I did in the 2000s called The Dreamer's Dead, and the whole thing really is just to indicate of like eliminating being this dreamer that doesn't really formulate into anything or doesn't ever manifest, and being an achiever or being a person that actually is living the dream that you have. So that's really where the whole concept of Kill the Dreamer and The Dreamer's Dead comes from. And so I appreciate you having me to talk about this, because it's definitely in line with, you know, my thought process and my mantra, and so I just that's my goal, is to try to make it to be an example for other creatives and other people that that want to break out of the box that you know, that society kind of puts us in, and get out there and live their true purpose. Purpose is really, you know, I think purpose is more important than dreams.
Yeah.
And dreams can be manifested just by, they can be trivial things.
Right.
Our dreams can be very trivial.
Yeah.
Our purpose, when our purpose aligns with our dream, then you really have, you know, something that of substance.
Yeah.
You know?
I think a lot of people, they hear about this Dream Nation and they think like, oh, it's just about living out dreams. But you even talk about living out dreams. Living out dreams, it's one thing to have a dream and another thing to live out a dream, right? So action is like the key, the key behind all that, right? It's one thing to develop this dream. It's a completely other thing to actually go after it, right? And so, I mean, we were talking like, you know, once again before the camera came on, it's like, you know, the hope behind all of this is to people to see this and see the stories and see how people came along and the influences and that sort of thing. And if they're going for a dream, to be more motivated to pursue that. And if they're not going for a dream, to be able to look at somebody like yourself and say, man, it came from people making fun of him, you know, to actually just decide, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to do it anyway. And then making something out of it, right? And so I think people put themselves in these mental jail cells all the time, where they like, you know, they put up like one mental bar, they build this jail cell around them, like one mental bar at a time, you know, whether it's like yourself, like in 8th grade when, you know, the rap got out there and then people made fun of it. I mean, you at that time put up one bar, right? Like, and then so we build it bar for bar for bar, and then people get into this mindset of like, well, now I built this jail cell around me and I feel comfortable here. Right. So I don't want to try to get out, right? Because if I try to get out, then there's a guard on the other side. Right. If you think about it, if you try to get out, there's somebody out there that's telling you that's never going to work, and so you come back in, right? Or you get out there and you try to get in a relationship and the relationship fails and you come right back in. You know, people are scared to take a chance to break out of all that, right? And so, sorry for the tangent.
Oh, no. I mean, that's the important part. I think that's really what it boils down to. Like, everything you want is on the opposite side of fear.
Yeah.
You know, so fear is just, it's really an illusion. So I mean, it's just really a matter of you do have to take chances. You do have to take risks. You have to break barriers, you know, your own barriers that have been placed by, you know, society or your parents or whoever, you know, that, you know, might not really understand you. You know, it's really, and critics and, you know, the whole thing is everybody has an opinion now, like everybody's got a platform, you know what I mean? So, you have to also know that just because people have a platform doesn't even mean that they believe what they're saying. You know, you have a lot of trolls, you have all kinds of things where people are just kind of out there just throwing things out there to get a reaction or, you know, see how they can affect your life. If I say this, you know, can I get them to stop doing something? That's like an accomplishment for some people.
Yeah.
So you have to, you know, you can't put too much weight into words that other people are saying that they're not even putting that much weight into.
Yeah.
You know? So you just kind of have to stay the course and be confident in your decisions. Like I've said that before too. You know, success is not about ideas; it's about decisions. So it's about going from having an idea to deciding that you want to, you know, make this a tangible thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know. And once you continue to make, you know, successful decisions, your confidence grows and you come to this conclusion where anything that you think of, you pretty much can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people know the word abracadabra, right? So you think of what's the magic word, abracadabra. The meaning of abracadabra, the actual meaning of the word is with my words I create, which is pretty powerful.
Wow.
I get that a lot. Yeah. So that's what that actually means. So, you know, taking what's in here and thinking about it and then manifesting it here, right, in the physical, right in front of us. So, man, dude, I appreciate you big time for doing this, man. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Tell people if they want to get a hold of you, learn about the Lyricist Lounge, all that. I mean, where can they go? How they get a hold of you?
Follow me on any social media platforms at Radio Blitz. It's RadioBlitz. You can follow, like I said, RVA Lyricist Lounge or RVA Rap Elite, AGM Imperial all on Instagram. And that's, you know, if you follow me, you'll be able to get to everything else. So
cool.
Yeah.
And with that, that's another episode of Dream Nation Project, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Peace.